Hello YouTube world, my name is Nicholas Montez and you're watching my YouTube channel, Nicholas Montez. Welcome back to another YouTube channel video, everybody. I'm so excited to have y'all back here together again. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing a new movie that came out in theaters this weekend, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I saw it this today, and I have some thoughts to say about it. But before we get started talking about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I think it's time to talk about what were my things going into this film, and why was I really excited for it, since this is an MCU movie. And I guess the first thing you gotta say about this movie of why I was excited for it is, number one, as it is a sequel to the original Doctor Strange, I just really liked the first Doctor Strange and I wanted more of him. Because with the original Doctor Strange, I just liked the world that we got introduced to, the character we got introduced to, and just everything, pretty much everything about it besides like the villain and the whole plot itself was just amazing, and I loved it. It was just a really good movie. I guess the thing, and that also leads into the Doctor Strange character, that ever since Infinity War, I kind of always I wanted to see more of Doctor Strange because he was really cool. And also, throughout the MCU, especially No Way Home, he's kind of used for like these big gigantic things, and the multiverse is kind of fit for that, especially what they did with No Way Home and creating spells to bind it up all together. So I thought that worked. Another thing you gotta talk about is that it continues the WandaVision storyline with Wanda and her becoming the Scarlet Witch. I thought WandaVision was a fantastic show, and I thought they did her character justice, and I was like, how are they going to continue her character in this show? How are they going to do all of that? And then likewise, I guess the other important thing you got to talk about here is cameos. Now, this is the second multiverse film to come out. Technically, No Way Home was the first one when they brought back the Sam Raimi and Mark Webb villains from the past Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films, as well as Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield themselves. And so, with all of that being said, with what they did with No Way Home, I was kind of thinking they were going to do so many cameos. Have pretty much every single Marvel guy from Marvel, all these other universes, come into this movie, and basically form a team of heroes to basically help and save the multiverse. And that was like really exciting for me, and that's kind of why that made me a little more excited for this film, especially when you got all the weird stuff and all the cool imagery and stuff, and seeing all and even not just like characters we know from other movies, but also like variants of characters like Captain Carter, Supreme Strange, which is not Supreme Strange, by the way, it's actually Sinister Strange. Spoiler alert. So it had all this cool stuff that I thought was really cool. So it had all the stuff that I was really excited for. And then I think the other thing is, Sam Raimi, which you don't know, Sam Raimi's the guy that directed the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy, and I thought he did an amazing job with the first two films. You know, the third movie has its issues, but I still kind of like it. But and I guess the final thing you got to talk about with this film is that while there was a lot of stuff I was really excited for, all the shots in the trailers looked awesome. I just can't really point out to what the story is about, because that's kind of why I wasn't really excited for most of the MCU films. That's why none of the MCU films were on my most anticipated year list. because I just can't really tell the story. Unless I know the story of the movie and what exactly is happening, I just can't really put it on the list. Though I am really excited, I was really excited for it. But the movie finally has come out, and I have some thoughts to say about it. So let's move on and talking about the good on this movie. So the first thing you gotta talk about this film is that, like most people have been saying, this movie works as it kind of stands out from the rest of the MCU. As this is the first time in almost a decade Sam Raimi has returned back to Marvel. The last Marvel movie Sam Raimi did was Spider-Man 3, which was about like 15 years ago. The year I was born, 2007. And I love the way that this movie kind of combines his style of superheroisms, where he's doing the little superhero stuff, but he's also doing the horror genre, which that's technically what he's famous for, is doing the horror stuff. And the horror stuff that they did in this film I thought was really cool. Like, there's literally a scene where someone tries to scream and it blows them up. Or there's tons of deaths in the film that almost feel like the film could be rated R. And I'm like, this is really dark. And the fact that, and I wasn't really expecting that going into this movie. And there's also some like weird imagery going onto the screen and all this stuff. And I just thought it really worked distinctively. And there's a lot, I love how there's certain scenes that feel like a horror movie. And I loved that part of the movie. I thought it was really cool. I think the other thing you gotta talk about this film is really the special effects. The film is just gorgeous from beginning to end. It really does great with all of that. There are some special effects though that do look weird, especially with Gargantus. I thought was really weird. But yeah, the special effects were astounding. They do have some special effects that are similar to the original Doctor Strange, but there's not much of it. And then I think the other thing you gotta talk about with this film is that, as this is a sequel to WandaVision, I think they do her character great. And going into this movie, one of my things that I was going into, as much as I was excited to see the cameos, to see more of Doctor Strange, I was curious to see how Wanda was going to be in the story. Because at the end of WandaVision, the end credits scene we get is her reading the Darkhold, which I guess has something to do with Doctor Strange. And I didn't understand what that means. But then you go into this scene, into the film, and you introduce her, and she basically tells her plot of the movie. It makes sense in light of what happened in WandaVision, where she's not wearing, like, WandaVision was all about wanting her to be with Vision. In this film, she just wants to be with her kids. And she's gonna do, and she wants to use the multiverse and go out in the multiverse to find a universe where she can go and be with her kids and be happy. That's actually a really cool villain plotline. And to be honest with you, I've always standed as a villain. I've always standed as Wanda, being the person that, like, I get why. I honestly understand why she did this. In WandaVision, she didn't know what she was doing. She was just angry. She lost everything. Her parents, her brother, and now her lover. So, it kind of made, it was an accident, really. She didn't mean to cause a whole hex across an entire town of people. It was an accident. I personally believe that. But I love the moral of the story that she now creates a new way to be with her kids and at least be with her family, because I don't think Vision exists somewhere in the other universe. It's a great storyline, and when you create and it creates her into this monster, especially when you get that sequence where America Chavez shows her kids. It's just it's terrible. And so I loved Wanda. But beyond that, her performance is great. So she's just great. And also, she's a beast because she also kills some characters in the movie, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Other thing you gotta talk about, America Chavez. So this was actually another one of those characters that I knew from the Disney XD Marvel shows. Basically from like those Marvel Rising shows. I thought she actually worked in this movie, and it made sense of why she was in it. She's basically this multiverse person that she's been on the run for years in the multiverse, but because people want her powers. And I love her character arc where she actually learns where in the beginning she can't really to control it, but she finally can, and she actually becomes like they join her as her apprentice, and I actually really like that idea of her becoming the apprentice of the Sorcerer Supreme. And people the fact that this movie got banned in Egypt because she's lesbian and she has two moms, to be honest with you, it didn't bother me really. They don't really point it out. It was a sad origin story that her moms got like sent away somewhere, so that was sad. And then also, I think the other thing you gotta talk about is that, like I said in my thing of why I was excited for this film, is that Doctor Strange was cool in Infinity War. So are we gonna get more of him as cool Doctor Strange? And we actually get more cool Doctor Strange, and he's just more cooler in this movie. He does a lot of cool tricks. Definitely a lot of cool tricks that we haven't seen at all, and it's really cool. But it's not just the coolness. I also was watching a review of spoiler review for this movie, and I didn't really understand the arc of Doctor Strange in this movie because they focused a lot of like, is Doctor Strange happy? His love for Christine, the Watch. I never understood that going into when I was watching the movie, but then I saw a review for it, and I was like, I get it now. That because he's arrogant, he makes bad choices. In No Way Home, he wanted to help a teenager erase the memory of everybody in the world of Peter Parker being Spider-Man. And it makes sense because why wouldn't a grown man listen to a 17-year-old kid? It makes sense. And it kind of fixes the problem of that in No Way Home. And it kind of makes sense, and I kind of like that this movie comments on that, and it makes it a bit of a character arc, but at the same time having the love for Christine and having the Watch thing. So I love that. And even in like the Destroy universe and the Illuminati universe, where there was one way in that universe was the Darkhold. And that's fantastic storytelling to do with this character. And likewise, much like how Spider-Man No Way Home did with its story, I thought what they did with this movie, I didn't really think they would tell a great story for Doctor Strange because it's multiverse. There wouldn't really be enough time for that because you have to save it. So I thought the way they did Doctor Strange's story in this film was really cool. The way they actually focused it in on Doctor Strange, and we had multiple Doctor Stranges with Defender Strange, Sinister Strange, the Supreme Strange, like all these worlds, I just thought was really cool. Also, exploring a little bit of multiverse stuff, I thought was pretty cool, especially like the animated universe, and the Bruce Campbell sequence was pretty funny. And then let's talk about the last thing I'm going to talk about with the good on this one is the cameos. The cameos, now I want to say this movie is not a cameo film. I'm kind of disappointed that it's not, but we'll get onto that in the bad, but overall, the cameos in this film were pretty good. And basically, the cameos are all in the introduction of the Multiverse Illuminati. And of course, you get Carl Mordo, and then you get Captain Carter in live action form. Of course, we knew she was coming in this film, so it's obvious that she was going to be part of this. Though I didn't think she would be part of the Illuminati because I thought they would have their own team for that. Then you get Black Bolt, which they say that he's actually that the actor that played Black Bolt is actually the Black Bolt guy from the Inhumans show, which is not good. Then you got Maria Rambeau as Captain Marvel. Then the big one is John Krasinski as Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic from Fantastic Four. And here's another thing that I heard. I believe a week ago, John Watts, the director of the MCU Spider-Man trilogy, he got signed off of directing Fantastic Four film. And if you know, John Krasinski isn't only an actor, he's also a director, because he directed the two A Quiet Place movies. And there's a lot of people saying that maybe he might direct, in a couple days or something, he might direct Fantastic Four and star in it as Mr. Fantastic. That would be really cool. Though I don't know how it could play out, but that would be really cool. And then also, and then you get Patrick Stewart as Professor X. So I thought all these cameos were pretty cool. Seeing these characters again, I think the best character of the bunch was just seeing Professor X, Mr. Fantastic, and Captain Carter again. And even seeing Captain Marvel, Maria Rambeau. I thought Captain Carter had the best stuff since she actually said, "I can do this all day." A little line in Captain America. I thought that was great. So that's the end of this one for good. Now let's move on to the bad. Now, for the bad on this film, I guess you could say the first thing I didn't like is the multiverse stuff. Now, this was a big thing going into this film because No Way Home set this up for me, that if they were able to bring back Tobey Maguire and the villains, they could do so much more, since this is the multiverse. This is Doctor Strange. And, you know, you could bring in the characters from the movies, but you could also bring in the variants. Variants of Doctor Strange. Characters from What If. And even fan casts of characters that we weren't even going to see up until now. And the fact that we only get the Illuminati team is kind of disappointing. Granted, we get some Doctor Stranges, but we don't get much universes. And then and also like the fact that they all get killed off pretty easily is kind of disappointing. Like, Black Bolt gets killed off quickly. Wanda disappears his mouth, he gets blown up by his own voice. Mr. Fantastic doesn't even try to land a punch, and he just gets shredded up to pieces. Then, you know, Captain Carter and Captain Marvel last a little long. But like, Captain Carter gets cut in half by her own shield, and then Captain Marvel literally gets crushed by like a statue. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, they're so wasted, and who knows if we're gonna see them again. Now, granted, the Captain Carter we saw in this movie I don't think it's technically the Captain Carter we saw in the What If series, because on MCU fandom it says she's still alive. So maybe it's not the Captain Carter we saw. So who knows? And then likewise, the actual multiverse itself, with the universes, we didn't really get to see much. We had the regular MCU world, the Illuminati dimension, the Sinister Strange dimension, and then pretty much like I believe that little universe with the Book of Vishanti. And I was disappointed, even though we got to see a little bit of the worlds with like the color world, the animated world, the water world. It was cool to see that, but I didn't really like the way the multiverse went out. Also, the fact that this movie is called Multiverse of Madness, but there's not really Multiverse of Madness happening in the multiverse, it's kind of weird. So that was one thing. I guess the other thing that you can tell is that, what do they do with Wanda? Because they don't really do anything here on out with her, because she literally just gets disappeared out of nowhere. And sorry. Like, she literally just destroys the Darkhold chamber, but like they don't say anything else, and so that's probably an issue. And so I guess you could say that those are really my only issues. I probably had a little bit more to say, but I just can't really remember anymore right now. But that's my issues for the film. So that's the bad on this one. That's my review for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Before I give you guys my final score, be sure to comment down below. What were your thoughts on Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? Did you guys love it? Did you guys hate it? We're right in between. Let me know all your thoughts down below in the comment section below. With that said, let's get on my scores. Alright, so that's it for my scores, but we're not done here yet. We have a couple more things to do before we end this video, and that's to see some theories I have for this movie going into the future of the MCU, as well as Doctor Strange as a whole. Alright, so let's just kind of start off with the stuff that we kind of are getting. The first one is the end credit scene with Doctor Strange just walking along after he just got his third eye, and Charlize Theron comes in, and I heard a lot about this, and her name is Clea, which in the comics she's like Doctor Strange's wife that she can go on adventures with, and I never heard anything about this at all, so I know zero knowledge about Clea, Doctor Strange's wife in the comics, so I know nothing about this information. So they go, and she's like, Doctor Strange, you have caused an incursion, and we are going to fix it. So she like slices a portal open, and you like see the world that we saw in the Dormammu sequence in the first Doctor Strange, and I'm like, and she's like, unless you're afraid, and she's like, so be it. And he's like, so be at it. And then they go walk off together. And, maybe this is probably going to set up Doctor Strange 3. If it's going to be another multiverse movie, because if I'm being completely honest, if any movie is going to explore the multiverse, Doctor Strange movies are the kind of movie they need to do that with. Because with the first Doctor Strange, they've always been teasing the multiverse and protecting reality, and it makes sense that Doctor Strange 2 will be the multiverse sequel. It would be the big multiverse movie. And then likewise, the stuff that we got with America Chavez being the new apprentice, I thought was actually really cool. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to turn out in the future, how she's going to learn to do portals. Maybe she'll actually learn some magic tricks, who knows? We'll see how good she becomes at this. But hopefully she just doesn't learn to be a sorcerer. I want her to be her own character, not like a sorcerer, not like Spider-Man where he just becomes Iron Boy Jr. throughout his entire trilogy. And then the other thing, I was a little bit disappointed with the Illuminati team, because like they don't really say if they're from those universes, like with Captain Carter or Professor X, or even Black Bolt or Captain Maria Rambeau. So I'm like, because like Professor X appeared in his X-Men suit like from the 90s, and everybody's saying that, but like if like Marvel Studios is making a show about that, they're returning it back. So is he gonna be dead in that show, or are they just making a new season like that never happened? Who knows? Do I have any other theories? I don't know. Maybe I actually might have a theory that Doctor Strange 3, if it's gonna be another multiverse film, maybe it might cause Secret Wars. Who knows? Because you know all this comes at a cost. But yeah, those are really my theories for this film as of right now. So that's my theories for the film. And my thoughts on Phase 4 as right now, along with Moon Knight, I think it doesn't really affect it as much, But I think it's a cool inclusion into the MCU, where it's not really all about fan service and characters coming back. It's really just seeing a Sam Raimi film in the MCU, and it's a momentous occasion that we get something like this. That we enter Phase 4 and getting something new and different. And I kind of like that. I kind of like that when you're doing it. And it feels right. Where would I put this in the Phase 4? You'll have to see my MCU ranking for that. My MCU movie ranking, not my MCU full ranking. I can't do that yet. Or actually never. I can't do it ever. So overall, I think it stands pretty good in Phase 4 MCU. So yeah, that's where I think it stands for in Phase 4. Alright, so now that we finally have Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness out, we finally have all 6 episodes of Moon Knight out, we're not really getting an MCU, project until Miss Marvel, but for the next, we're not talking about shows here, we're talking about movies, and and the next one is Thor: Love and Thunder. Am I excited for it? Yes. Personally for me, I was a huge fan of Thor Ragnarok. I love what Taika Waititi did with that film, so I'm like, give me more, I want to see more Thor. Just the idea of making Thor the buffest Thor we've ever seen after what they did with Endgame, I think is great. Exploring, introducing Gorr the God Butcher, as Christian Bale, the Batman. I think is pretty good as he's coming for all the gods, which introduces Zeus, and possibly a light introduction to Hercules. Having the Guardians of the Galaxy on the ride. Well, I don't really think they're going to be on it because it doesn't seem like they're going to be throughout the entire film. Seeing the new version of Asgard, of what Valkyrie has created, of what she's created into the new Asgard, all that sounds really exciting to me. And even the soundtrack sounds amazing to me. The humor looks really cool, sounds really cool. All that sounds amazing. And I think the big thing is seeing Jane Foster come back and wield Thor's hammer. All that excites me. And even seeing Mjolnir come back, like the one from Thor Ragnarok, not the stolen one from Endgame from the 2013 timeline. This is the one from 2017, the one that hella broke. And I'm excited to see Jane Foster wield that hammer and go bash some bad guys. So I'm excited to see that. Alright, so that's pretty much where we end this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And my social media stuff is in the About section over there. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.